What's good, family? Welcome to the Love You to Life podcast with Rod and Cece. Today we had the opportunity to talk to an entrepreneur, Bridgeport, Connecticut's own Tisha Hudson, the owner of Edible Couture. And that's a made-to-order bakery that specializes in small desserts. So let's see how that went.
Yeah.
All right. So how you doing today? How's your energy?
I think I'm doing good. I learned that I'm going to be babysitting today, so you might have to ask me that again tomorrow. But, like, right now, we good.
All right.
Yeah.
What time you babysitting?
I want to say about 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My sister just loves to spring on
Mm-hmm.
love.
Mm-hmm. That's what family's for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you don't mind when it comes to the babies anyway.
I love my babies. House full of kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. They might be mine anyway. I don't know. Like, they look like me.
Mm. Yeah. I'm good. I'm good today because remember last week I promised that I was gonna go to the gym 3 times, and I did it.
Tisha, listen to him. Just
I did it, and but I barely made it because the week is Sunday to Saturday, right?
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Here,
so,
yes.
Yeah. So I squeezed it in yesterday. No, Saturday. I did get in Saturday, so I did keep that commitment.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I
because
I knew
3 in.
because
Yes.
3
Mm-hmm.
because I knew you was gonna have your eyes all big, ready to talk to me about my integrity and
Yes.
keeping my word and all that stuff. So
I get on them. Yes, I do.
yeah,
Yes, I do.
and you know, so today's a little different where normally we pick a subject, definition, quote. Did you get a quote? Because I'm not going to do a definition.
I didn't do a quote.
Okay.
But
You don't have to.
on IG we could post a nice entrepreneur quote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think with what we actually do, what we actually talk about, would probably give us something that we could give us an idea of what we could put
On Instagram.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, you know that when it comes to eating, you know, I live a ketogenic lifestyle, which is basically meat and a couple of veggies. So, so just maybe like some broccoli, cauliflower. You know, that's really basically all of it.
That's the gangster lifestyle. Not everybody is about that.
Yeah.
Lifestyle.
No. I mean, I'm saying I don't.
Keto is great though. We love keto. Shout out to keto folks that is listening to this.
Yeah. So
we love you.
So I very rarely eat sweets. But if I'm gonna have any kind of sweets, I want it to be worth it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm gonna have something, it's gonna have to taste good.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, because it may be like 2-3 months before the next time I have it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and with that being said, I know I found a couple of years ago, because Facebook is so social. I found somebody that makes treats. At the time, it was like and I was curious about it because I seen stuff on TV about, you know, cupcakes and the cake in the cups and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I never had it. And like I said, I'm very particular. So I think the first time I went, it was at a church. The setup was at a church, like in the lobby of a church. And I said, let me go because I know the person. I know
it's good, Lord. Now I know.
It's blessed.
Yes.
Yeah. And
you gonna let that one go? I just did it again. Yes,
it's okay. Yeah.
All right.
In time.
Know I'm down.
In time. He'll get it.
All right.
And so and I let me give it a shot because I know the person. And I'm a mama's boy, so I'm particular to my mama.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, everything she make is the best. Mm. So it's usually like if it's gonna be something that I'm gonna try, it's usually like I'm always comparing it. So anyway, I went, tried. It was delicious, and so that's been my fix. If I do need a treat, it's like I'll go a whole 6 months without a treat. But if I do, I
Mm.
know there's a place where
I
you
know
can,
there's a place.
where you can get, or you can get a product
Yes.
and it's gonna taste good, and it's not gonna be dry.
Uh-uh.
It's
At
gonna be
all.
moist,
Amazing. Bliss.
flavor. You could tell it's well thought out,
Yes.
Absolutely.
and just not saying, all right, here goes some vanilla cake with some
Yeah. Slap together.
some sour cream frosting or whatever that is. But
Did you say sour cream?
Yeah.
I meant cream cheese. Sorry, cream cheese. Ain't there? There's a cream cheese
He
frosting.
says sour cream,
yes,
though.
Yeah, he
Is it-
did
He
say
thinking
sour
tacos
cream.
right now.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's Cinco de Mayo this
There
week.
Right?
there you go.
You know
there you
what?
go. There you go. And so with that, I want to talk. We have this is our first interview for the podcast,
Yes.
and so we're gonna talk about
And his eyes are glittering, y'all. If y'all could see, he's just glittering.
yeah, it's our first interview. So we want to welcome the owner of Edible Couture,
Yes.
Tisha Hudson.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thank
All right,
you for
all right.
being on.
All right, so let's just jump right into it. The name Edible Couture. How did you come up with that?
Really, it was just I don't know. It just came to me. You know, I play with a lot of ideas. I remember going back to entrepreneur school, and they always said make it something that's catchy, something that you love. And I played around with the words, and at the time I was doing custom cakes. So to me, is edible couture. It was works of art. You know, edible
Okay.
works of art. So
Okay.
that's where I got it.
Okay.
She has this, you have this big sister glow about you.
Yeah.
And it just makes you just say, like, yes, I will get all of it. Just all of it. Like,
People
sign
tell
me
me that
up.
all the
yes,
time.
I'm looking like you just, it's a glow there. Like,
Yeah. Well, thank
I
you.
had to, if I didn't say that, this whole podcast wasn't going to be
Right.
okay. I
They
had
need
get it
to
out.
feel my energy through.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. So I wanted to ask you, like being that a business could take a huge part of your energy, what do you do to manage your mental health?
Really, it is my days off. I know I have to schedule time for me. And usually Monday, Tuesday is that time.
So
Some days is, you know, you want to get out there because people want you out there. And I had to learn the hard way to say, you know, no, this is the day for me and I must rest.
right.
There's a lot of times as an entrepreneur, you go so much that you burn yourself out.
Yeah.
And you're no good to yourself, your family, or your customers if you're burnt out. So
That's so good. That's true. That's a fact. So good.
How long have you been baking?
seemed like all my life. I started baking with my grandmother.
Wow.
Yeah, she was diabetic and she really wasn't supposed to have it, but we used to get in the kitchen and we used to create things, and I used to always try to find like sugar-free stuff for her, you know, but she wasn't having it.
Yeah.
So, but
You
yeah.
ain't telling grandma what to do.
No, absolutely not. So,
Mm.
I mean, you know, that's really how I started, you know, with her.
Do you remember the first thing that you baked that you were like, or either you tasted it or somebody else tasted it and they said, oh, you know,
Wait a minute.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, the very first thing that I made, this is back in my early high school days, I did a lemon meringue pie. And it came out so good. Like, I mean, it's hard to get the meringue the right consistency and, you know, everything. And I think I made it so much that I drove my family crazy because, you know, it was a big family, but, you know, they had to eat it. So
Yeah,
everybody
right.
was just tired of lemon
Right.
meringue. So, but, yeah, that probably was the very first thing back then.
Wow.
And you obviously you didn't start off baking as a as your way of living. So what were you doing before you were doing this full time?
Accounting.
Accounting.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's. Were you in a business accountant, like, or you doing it like you did taxes and stuff like that?
I started like just in corporate doing accounts receivable, accounts payable, payroll. I started as doing taxes for people years ago. I used to work for Tax Express. I used to be here in Bridgeport as a manager. And I really hated doing accounting. Even up until the time I quit, it just wasn't what I wanted.
Right.
And really, like, the story of how I got started is really deep. I mean, it's not just a simple, oh, you went and, you know, decided to do this. I mean, it was a lot that had to play into why I started.
Right.
And usually when I tell people the story, you know, they get goosebumps because it seemed like it's so unbelievable. But, you know,
Okay.
accounting was never the field for me.
Right. Right. So that was just more like, you know, a paycheck. You knew how to do it, so it was something you're going to do to provide for your family. But I mean, you down for some goosebumps?
I like Goosebumps actually. I
Yeah.
love it.
So-
Let's hear it. I was about to say I'm down with the Goosebumps.
Well, basically, like back in like I would say like 2011 maybe, I had this dream about my father. Now, my whole life, my father was addicted to drugs. So he was in our life, but he wasn't. He struggled a lot to be there. And so my father died in, what was it, 2000 and, I think it was 2009, I believe it was. So, no, it was way before then. But anyway, my father passed, and it's like we really didn't have closure because he never got over the addiction. He died from a drug overdose. So back in 2011, I had a dream about my father, and in this dream, my father came walking through the door, and he came walking through my bedroom door, and my father was like this really tall, slender guy, and he walked, and his hand swings behind his back, like almost like George Jefferson. That's how he walked, you
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
So when I saw my father come through the door, I got crazy. I jumped all over him, screaming and everything, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy!" So he said, "Listen, I can't stay." He said, "I just came to tell you to go back to my old room, and behind the TV, I left something for you." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He was like, "Just do it, just do it." And I said, "Okay." I was like, "I'm going to do it." So I went to this room, looked behind the TV, and behind the TV was this book. And inside the book was a whole bunch of numbers and formulas and things like that. And I said, "I don't know what this means." And I closed the book, and I just went about my business. At that time, I woke up from my dream, and I told my husband, I said, "You wouldn't believe the dream I had about my father." And I explained it to him. And we kind of laughed at it or whatever. So that same day, that evening, we were having a little cookout in the yard. And my cousin came over, and he usually never comes to anything because, you know, he got ordained as a minister, so he really didn't kind of like, you know, socialize, you know, a lot of functions. Right. So he came that day, and then later in the evening, somebody brought up dreams, and I said, "Oh, wait, let me tell you about the dream I had about my father." And he said, I explained them to the dream, and he said, "Tisha," he said, "you better go back and get that book from your cousin, a book of recipes that she had from when her father died. My father and her father used to work at a bakery.
Wow.
And her father saved all the recipes from that bakery." So then it makes sense to me why I couldn't understand what was inside the book. All the formulas were actually the recipes,
Right.
were the numbers and everything. I just didn't know what it was.
Right.
So I was like, there can't be any book, because if it was a book, it would have been brought up by now. So the next day when I went to work, I texted my cousin, and I said, "What I'm about to ask you," I said, "is something that was led to me from a dream I had about my father." And I said, "Do you have a book of recipes that your father left you?" And her response on the text, I clearly remember, was like, "Oh my God." She was like, "Yes, I do," because they never told anybody about this book. Only his close siblings knew about it. And I was like, I would really like to see that book.
Wow.
And she was like, "I'll let you see it." Till this day, I've never seen that book. And that was since 2011. And my aunt and them, they would always say, "Did you get the book? Did you get the book?" And I would say, "No, I didn't get the book." And I said, and I could understand why she probably didn't give it to me, because that was the last thing, I guess, she had
Right.
of her father.
Yeah, right.
You know? So I just said, I just really wanted to see if the book was the same thing that was in my dream. And my aunt said, "Well, what was it in your dream?" And I explained the book to her, and I said it was blue. And my aunt said, "Baby, the book was blue." And I said, at this point, I'm like, I don't know what to do with this information. I don't have the recipes. I don't know, what am I supposed to do? So I kind of got on. Me and my sister had always talked about maybe we should start a little cupcake business, but we never did it. And so I sat there and I got on Facebook. My very first cupcake I came up with on my own was the banana pudding cake. And I put it on Facebook. I said, "I just made cupcakes. If anybody wants some, come get it."
Right.
And I did that every time I bake. I mean, and I was baking often, like a couple times a week. People got so hooked on that banana pudding cake that it was like to the point that they just was requesting it.
Right.
And then I made a little cake for my brother, and for his birthday, as a little joke. After that, people started saying, "Could you make me a cake? Could you make me a cake?" From there, it grew. So it really wasn't something. I felt like I took it as this. My father wasn't able to give me anything his whole life, or our whole life, because of his addiction. So him coming to me in that dream kind of gave me closure to, not being able to have him for, our life, that he gave me something. And because I didn't know the meaning or the reason or whatever, I just gave the stuff away. I gave it away. That's how everybody got so used to my baking. And they became my spokespeople.
Wow.
They're the one that referred me to people or whatever. And that's how really I grew until the point that, I am here where I am today. They already knew what my product was like.
Right.
Yeah.
So I really didn't have to do anything but stay consistent and do what I've already been doing. So
Get it, mama.
it's crazy, but that's
Wow.
really, really
No.
what drove me to go direction that I went.
Wow.
Okay.
I wow. You are amazing. And the fact that you listened to it, you didn't know what it meant, but you was just like, I don't know what
Gotta
this
do
is, but
something
I'm
with
gonna
it.
keep, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep, but it's not what you say about you. It's what other people say about you.
Right.
And they was growing it for you.
Me.
Yeah, that's
And there was no intention. You
Nothing.
just
No.
just
Yeah.
was
No
in you, and you wanted to.
I just didn't want to sit on it and not do anything with it. So
Right.
I said, "God, whatever it is meant for me to do with this, I'm just going to do it." I knew I had the foundation from my grandmother to bake, and my father, whatever two came together, I don't know. I just put it to work.
I feel like the accounting went with that too, because you have to be strategic in doing all the measurements and all that.
Well, the funny thing about accounting is I wanted to go to school for baking when I was in Bullet Havens.
Wow.
And my mother said, "No, don't go to school for baking because you already know how to bake. Why don't you go for accounting?" And I was so mad at her, so mad,
Wow.
So I told her, I said, now that I'm older and I really understood, I'm like, well, her sending me to school for accounting kind of set the foundation to me to be able to know my business all the way around.
Yes.
So it all worked out.
It did. Yes, it did.
Yeah, where some people, man, had to start to learn the business on the fly as far as the business and money wise. You was already in it,
In it, yeah.
and you were laying the foundation already, not knowing. A lot of
Right.
times it happens like that where you don't understand why certain things
Things
happen.
are, yeah, you just have to listen and go for it.
Yeah, you talk
If it's
about
your
Goosebumps
passion.
though.
Yeah.
That's talking about that's
Oh.
you remember the first like so when you said you were giving it away at first?
Giving it away.
You remember the first time like you actually said, "All right, I'm gonna charge them," and how you decided what you're gonna charge them?
I guess it was at the point where it was starting to be too much. Like I was getting a lot of requests, and I'm like, okay, this is not just giving away a couple of cupcakes.
Right.
This is really like I can really turn this into a business. And before having a cupcake business and doing that, I've done hundreds of businesses.
Right.
I've always knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur from
And you.
10, 12 years old. Like I used to save my money. I used to hop on the #1 bus. Once a month, I knew Entrepreneur Magazine was coming out, and I would go downtown and get that book. I would read it from beginning to end. I would read it twice. I would have them stacked up. I would have them in suitcases under my bed. I just knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be rich. My whole life I knew that. But it didn't matter. I mean, and my mother said I would take the bus and I would go sit in the library all day. It's like I knew that that's what I wanted. I just couldn't figure out how to get there. So I've done quite a bit of businesses. If you ask people, they'd be like, even when I started the cupcake thing, they were like, "Oh goodness, what you doing now?"
Oh.
That's how much like
if it's in your heart,
That's-
it's
yeah,
coming out.
you know.
If it's in your heart, it's coming out, and that's exactly what happened. That
Yeah,
is beautiful.
absolutely.
Oh, so would you attribute that your success to this point that entrepreneurial spirit that you had? Would you attribute your success to that consistency that you started? Like, because when you were at one point you were doing it for nothing, but when it turns into a business and it's actually this is the way you make your living, but also you have passion for actually baking. Was it must have been easy, that transition, because you were already consistent. So you were already giving it away. So you got to a point where you were still working. Was it 9 to 5 or 8 to 4?
9 to 5. Well, yeah, I made my own hours after a while. I mean, I've been, laid off here, starting another job, but yeah.
So you got to a point though, because I remember specifically when I don't remember the date, but I do remember you announced that this is my last day working. I'm full time Edible. What was like
that was last year.
So when you decided to do that, what was that conversation like at home, where you were like, I can't do the layoffs, the this, the that, and you're obviously not passionate about
not
that
happy
stuff
at all. Yeah,
Right.
I wasn't. I mean, the first conversation was with my husband, and I told him, I said, look, I said, I don't have enough of this. I said, I've sacrificed myself for everybody. I kept saying I'll wait till my son graduate college, and then every time something else comes up that stops you from trying to, move ahead. My son have graduated for college for like 4 years, and I'm still saying, it's not time. It's not time.
Right.
But when I told my husband, I'm like, I'm stern on what I'm saying, and I'm going to figure this out for me. I have to go out on faith and believe that this business is going to support me. And then, it's just a matter of seeing that how much you're bringing in from this business compared to what you're working.
Right.
And it wasn't making sense. It was like, this business is bringing in more for me than this job. So, I mean, I went to work, and I worked at a great place, and I told them, when I got my truck, I told them, I said, listen, I just purchased this truck. I don't want to be out here just trying to hide and whatever. I said, I'm letting you know that I'm going to have to go part-time. And they were very understanding. They were all about people excelling and, furthering themselves. And I said, well, I'm going to go part-time, and that's how we're going to do it. I'm going to be here part-time, and I'm going to be on my truck. And like a month and a half later, I had to tell them I quit because it was just too much. So.
That
And
hit me in the chest just now. Since you feel bad. Oh,
That's what you got to do if
yes.
you really want it.
If it's in your heart,
Yep.
you will regret it if you don't.
Yep.
but walking
Wow.
out that last day, was that like was that something that felt good, or you still was like, you know what?
It
This
was
is-
mixed emotions. I was like, this is the every week paycheck. Like, I know that money gonna come near, so,
Used to it.
but it didn't matter. It was like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna figure out how to make it work. And even to this day, they order monthly cupcakes from me every single month.
okay. Well,
Wow.
They had
They
the whole
really-
time I was
that's-
there, and
oh.
still until this
Okay.
day.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems like it's rare now with
It is very
with
rare
companies
for
that-
Absolutely.
they're not trying to support things like they.
Right. And
Yeah.
you can get in these big companies and they just really don't have love for you. And that was one of my reasons why I had to go, because it's so many times that you're going to find a job and they just want you to work for them and give nothing to yourself.
Right.
So because we had that relationship, I was able to do that with them. you
Wow.
know.
Well, that's something that you built, though. That I mean, that obviously carrying over into your business, because they're probably not gonna do that for everybody.
Right.
They're not gonna feel that way for everybody.
Right.
So
Right.
No.
now, you said so. You got the truck. What was the idea behind the truck? Like, you just researched what would be better for you as far as a truck? Because I remember at one point I said to you, hey, we gotta get you in the store. You're like, nah, I don't want a storefront. If anything, I would like to get another truck. What was that? What went behind that decision?
It's just really doing it for so long and understanding the business. And, I research a lot. They call me Google because, I will Google
goes with that
everything.
accounting.
And,
It's very
I need to
strategic.
know what I'm getting myself into.
Yeah.
So, I didn't have a clue why I was going to buy this trailer. I just woke up last year and said, I'm going to get me a food truck,
Faith.
and I said, I started looking at stuff and I found a guy on Facebook, and I emailed him and I said, listen, I don't have a clue anything about food trucks. I said, but what do you suggest? Give me, the pros and cons of both so I could kind of make up my mind. And he told me, and I went with a trailer because it doesn't break down. Even if your car break down, you can always get something else to hook back up to it and pull it along. Food trucks break down a lot, and it's just, you can be at an event and you could be stuck. You could be on your way to an event and never make it.
Right.
Wow.
So it's a lot of things you have to weigh for yourself to see if it actually works for you.
Right.
But it was the best idea for me.
Yeah. Oh. Wow. I'm in awe of this woman right here. Okay. So before you got into your business, what entrepreneur did you admire, and what was it about them that caught your attention?
She's gonna say herself. She said she did about 100 different
like, I'm in
things.
my dopeness right now,
by
so-
myself.
I did, but I'm never ever fazed by what I do. I always feel like I could do more, but there's people in this community, and it's I feel like a lot of people don't get the recognition that they deserve. But I've seen people it's so many. I'm gonna feel bad because I can't remember them all, but people like Tanaja Cohen, Bubba with the barbershops
barbershop.
and
Yeah.
everything, and then just starting his own barber school and stuff like
Big
that.
things, yeah.
Sharon Clemens and them, starting from Bridgeport, now they're in New Haven with their hair salon. These are people I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I'm looking at them and they're really doing it. They every day they're living their lives doing what they absolutely love.
And you could reach out and touch them. It's not like
Exactly.
somebody on
Right,
TV.
Right.
They're right there next
People
to you.
on TV don't faze me.
Right.
Like,
I like that.
I don't know what their story is. I don't know what their struggle. But these people right here, I know
You
them.
saw it.
Yeah.
You
I
saw
seen them come up, you know?
Yeah.
So that's always important. And I just think, you know, these people don't get the credit that they deserve, you
Right.
know? So.
Yeah, I think, and it's up to us too to make sure we spotlight them. Or
Yeah.
if it's something come across my page, I just try to share it. I try to share it because there's so many people doing good things.
Right.
But I it's definitely important, especially from here. You know, I didn't even ask you where you was from, but you know, being from Bridgeport, a lot of negativity comes with that. Negativity comes with that, and I think it even if you look at something today, where maybe a story comes out and you look at the comments and stuff like that, people don't think anything good comes from Bridgeport, and it's just not true.
Right. They don't understand.
It's a story.
And it's probably the same thing when we hear stuff about other places. You don't know what
Yeah,
that place
you
is
can't go
like.
by
So,
it.
you know,
Yeah.
you have to just learn things for yourself.
Yeah.
So.
That's so good. That really is. That's so good because it's easy to like have a review, and then that one review, the wrong mind will catch it and be like, oh, that's a terrible place to eat. That's a terrible place to vacation. That's a terrible place to.
You don't want your kids there,
buy
the
water,
schools,
like,
whatever.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
That
that's
one
their
angry person.
opinion.
Right,
Like,
it
you
is.
can't get so on the
so good.
defensive over somebody's opinion.
Right.
That's so
That's
good.
theirs. That
That's so
belongs to
good.
them, you know?
That is so good.
So now your first form of advertisement was from word of mouth, and now obviously with social media, is that pretty much what you do now? Is just word of mouth and social media?
That's it for me. I have a lot of people that approach me, want me to do advertisement and stuff. I'm not interested in it. And I don't say that to be funny, but as an entrepreneur, every dollar I get has to go towards my bills, that's my bread and butter now, you know? And for me, like, I know there's a lot of people that say they're not on social media, but there's more people on social media that's going to spread the word, that's going to refer you, you know? So, my advertisement is that truck sitting in my driveway, even though, you know, I don't like it to be there, but when they see that truck, my number's on it, my website's on it, you know, that's my advertisement. Some days I could get in and just ride around, you know, people snapping pictures of it, you know. Legit. So, I mean, if your advertisement is going to do what it says it's going to do, then maybe I'll give it to you, but don't ask me to post an ad and you're just going to have it sitting on somebody's table because you're really doing me a disservice, you know.
Right. And people attach you to that too.
Yeah,
so
you know.
They're going to say like it's basically like you co-signing for that.
Right.
And so they're going to Tisha, you told me that you told me Candace know how to cook. I tried it. I tried her chicken.
I don't know.
I tried it.
Like, wait a minute.
I tried it chicken.
Yes, they would judge you, boy. I tell you.
So, when you I know you said that you felt like at that point, at a certain point, that the business, the bacon was making you more money than and you had that initial conversation with your husband, but and you also thought about, look, this is a paycheck. And you said you felt you was conflicted walking out of the job, but like, is there anything was there any point after you got out of there and you started maybe like a lull or something like that where you started to like say, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Because this is a rough week.
I would lie and say that there's moments where you don't sit there and say, what in the world am I doing? I mean, but that's going to come with anything you know? And I know, like, I took January, I stopped working, stopped being in the mall. And I went in the mall with the intentions just to see how it was. I never really wanted to sign a contract for a long term, even though they wanted me to. But I wanted to fill it out, see what it was like. Well, November and December was lovely. January came around, and I was like, Tisha, what in the world are you still? Why are you still here?
Right.
Exactly, but I wanted to see what my high was going to be and what my low was going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't make those same mistakes again, and that's just what's going to happen. There's going to be good events that I do, and there are going to be bad events that
Right.
I do. And I just have to know, how to adjust myself going forward. But yeah, I would say like there's times that I've questioned it, but I know I can't give up.
Right. Oh yeah,
Right.
definitely, definitely.
Because my job told me they still saving my seat. And I said, I'm not coming back.
But that's a
So-
actually, that's a good thing to
Yeah.
not, you got that fall. Actually, it could work. You could
But
maybe
if
make
I
it easy.
settle for that,
Yeah, it could
then,
make it easier to give
know.
up if you're not. But you about your business, so.
I admire it.
Now, what about so you started off, like you said, with just basically friends. So the progression is giving it away, and then somebody said, "Hey, would you bake for At what point? Because I know you have. At what point did you get into websites and like shipping outside of Bridgeport or outside of Connecticut?
Yeah.
Well, I just started shipping, I think it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just, really didn't want to take too many orders shipping because, I wanted to make sure the product got there
Right.
good or whatever. And believe me, that first few times shipping, some got there good and some was like, oh, God, these people are going to kill me, because they get there and, depending on which the location, I wind up shipping double
Right.
out, where I actually lost money. Or sometimes I just sent it overnight, spending too much on shipping because, I really wasn't familiar with it, but I wanted to get it in people's hands. So, I
Right.
mean, it was just something I had to learn. And that's what anything, you're not going to get everything right. Nothing's going to be perfect. You just have to learn from it.
Right.
Don't keep making the same mistakes, but
Right.
just learn from it,
Right.
That's good.
Let me backtrack a little bit. So the mall experience overall, you had it was a 3-month,
Yeah,
that you had,
3-month lease.
and is that something that you would do again, or just because, or the January experience made you say, I probably won't do this again?
I would definitely do it again, but I would only do it as a pop-up.
Right.
I don't, I see a lot of people headed that way now because they're like, oh, well, Edible Couture was in the mall. Let me go in the mall and do this. And I'm
Wow.
like, I'm not saying don't do it. Just make sure your product is going to do well there.
Right.
You can't say off of somebody's experience
Somebody
whether
else's.
it's going to work for you.
That's so
I
good.
had a little kiosk in the middle of the food court. There's no way I could not win right there
Right.
with people already knowing my product.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I went there to gain more people,
Right.
get the exposure. And 2, to get out the cold, because I really do hate the cold. But, so it's just, it has to make sense for you,
Right.
So don't do it because somebody else is doing it.
So
Doing it because
good.
it works for you. And
So good.
I'm an open book, and people know, like, if you come to me and ask me questions about business and this or whatever, I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah.
I'm that type of person. I share. Just don't ask me my recipe because I ain't
You ain't
really
about to
that.
get it.
No, I'm not. But
Yeah.
I've always been that way.
That's
I
so
mean,
good.
I've helped a lot of people start their business, and if I could share, then I would rather you not make the same mistake that I did.
Right.
So ask the question,
Yeah.
So good.
don't feel like, oh, she's, people always think like, oh, she's not going to give me the information or she's not going to talk to me. That's totally not who I am.
Right. Just
Just
coming out of whatever's in their head. Just
right,
make
because
it a
I
whole
remember
thing.
somebody had to help me.
Right.
I had to find
Right.
the answer somewhere, so I
Yeah.
know how it is.
That is so
Yeah.
good.
Well, listen, I'm a little bit guilty. I told you about asking you about the interview because, like I said, at this point, it's basically you already have your following, you already have your customers. So at this point, to sit down and talk to somebody who, we didn't even officially, like I told her, I think I'm gonna launch with this interview, but we didn't even officially. We just been getting here, doing our thing, and having close people, hey, listen to it and get the
Yeah.
feedback from them. So initially, like I said, and I knew I wanted to talk to you, but it was
Yeah.
like, okay, it was timing. Cause I seen you at the truck a couple of times the last couple. Hey, this coming. I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna ask her today.
And he don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Keep walking.
Nah, there might
Have a nice day.
there might be
Good seeing you.
there might be somebody there, and so I don't want to be like no, and they be looking at me like,
no, I would never do that.
Stop.
I'm a jokester, so I
my
like to
goodness.
joke and stuff. So I would never be like, no, I wouldn't do
That's
that.
so good.
all right,
And even if I have a following, I'm not gonna, not do something like this.
no, I appreciate it though.
Okay, so
You ain't ready.
I got a few, like I have a few more questions for you.
All right.
So I want to know what's something you would give advice on for a person starting out in a business.
That's a good question.
Yeah, for those beginners.
I would say just learn everything you possibly can about that business. I mean, if it's your passion, you need to know everything, the ins, the out. I mean, you're not going to be a pro at everything, but just try to dig in and find out as much as you can, the pros, the cons, everything, and have a business plan.
Yeah. Okay. So, if you could be in an elevator for 5 minutes with your hero, past or future, how would that conversation go, and who would the person be?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
With my hero.
Yeah. You could ask them anything in the world, like, what would it be? 5 minutes.
It's strange. I mean, there's people that, you always hear people say like Oprah or, Obama or something like that. I mean, I don't really even know.
Yeah.
My thing, I probably want to be in the elevator with 5 minutes with like somebody like my grandmother or my father, just to
That's so
say,
good.
like, I think that would do me more than, any of them.
So, what would you ask if you could? My mama, my hero. I admire that.
Right?
I admire that very much.
Yeah, you got to cherish them while they're still here.
For real.
I'm not exactly sure. I would just want to make sure they know that, I'm sure they know that you love them and, and just give them, just tell them things that you were never able to tell them. A lot of times in life and growing up, back in the day, the old school, you didn't really express a lot of things. You didn't express love. You didn't, we didn't have a lot of emotion, that was shared. So I probably would just express myself and just, just let them know that everything that they did and, put out there for our family was worth it, and, we're grateful and just stuff like that. I don't like to overcomplicate things,
Okay. So if it were possible, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Probably to don't be so quick to just go into it. Like, for me, if I want it, I'm just going for it, and you can't do that with everything in life, and some things, I mean, you don't want to have regrets, but, if you can do things over, sometimes it's worth it to just, sit back and analyze things first and, have a little bit more patience. I know growing up, I didn't have any patience.
Me neither.
Not a bit. Still to this day, I really have little patience on things, but for me, I would probably not try to be so quick with everything and just be a little bit more understanding and just take your time. And it's okay to mess up. That's important.
Yes.
I mean, don't let, the eyes of everyone else, the judgments and everything just
So big on this world.
yeah, just take it easy. You know, I think that's why so many kids today are just having a hard time with things, because the internet rules everything that they do.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
so you got to take it easy on yourself.
Do you look at other bakers or people in the business that you're in, whether it's just regular food trucks, maybe not so much, but do you look at that as competition, or is it, when you look at them, it's just I'm doing something different, or I'm just doing what I'm doing? And
Nope, I never look at them as competition. And one thing that I hate, it bothers me to no end that people always put other entrepreneurs against each other. I know several people that do the same thing I do, but their style is different. Their flavors are different.
Yeah.
You know, they have their own following. I have my own following, just like some prefer Target over Walmart.
Right.
You know, don't, it's too much stress on us when you comparing us to each other. You know, we're all out here trying to make a living and doing what we do. I know people told me plenty of times, oh, you charge too much, or this, that, and the other. I'm fine with that, because I know who my target market is. But you can easily go over to the other person.
Yeah.
You know, just
And
like
do
you
your
can
thing
do
over
with
there.
anything else.
yeah,
So
you can go to Stop and Shop, get some cupcakes from there. If
you
that's,
absolutely
if
could.
that's-
If
if
that's
that's-
what your budget allow, I'm not mad at
For
you.
real.
I really am not. But to all my sisters out there that's, you know, doing their thing, baking, I commend y'all. You like, it's not an easy business. And I'm saying to them, don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't ever give up. I mean, we all started in the same spot. I just,
So good.
you know, wanted it more, I guess, you know, to go out there and push harder to get what I want. Though, I mean, you can't be here either.
Yeah.
You could
It
be
makes a
parked right
difference.
next to me,
Yes,
you know?
it makes
so,
a difference. That's so good. That makes a difference.
what would you say? Like, do you still do? I know. Do you do like catering on the day? Like, if you doing the truck, would you do catering on those days too for a party? So you would do all of that on.
Absolutely. If you place an order within, you know, a time frame where I'm able to do it, I do birthday parties, I do weddings, I do, you know, a lot of different things. It's just a matter of me managing my schedule and making sure I have the help to, you know, get that order to look just as good, to taste just as good as it's going to be on the truck. So, yeah.
What would you say, like, was the biggest order you had to fill, and how stressful was that? Like, was it like, did it include like messing up a batch?
Oh, I've messed up quite a bit of batches. Quite a bit. Threw a lot away. Yeah.
You
that
know,
happens often. Even till today. Like my
Yeah.
red velvet the other day didn't come out good, so I was short on a truck, some red velvet, and it broke my heart. But yeah, so
you know, we forget about that because we get the end product. You know what I'm saying? So we're not even thinking like
about
what you did for that
I'm
day.
very particular, like, and like the place where I get some of my products from didn't have something that I always use, and I substitute nothing.
Right.
I make the same product with the same stuff every single time,
That's so
no
good.
substitutions. And I think people don't do that. They'll try this, they'll try that, but for the last 10, 11 years, it's the same product. So when that red velvet didn't come out right, I knew right away it wasn't what.
Yeah.
And I didn't want my customers to be like, well, this don't look like the same red velvet. So, yeah, I have to put it back.
You noticed that she
That
said
makes a difference.
she said the
too.
same product. She wouldn't even give us that one recipe, that
Yeah,
one
yeah.
little ingredient.
No.
Not today.
There was your
Not
product.
today.
No,
It was
it
a
was the
product.
red. It
I
was the
like
red
that.
food coloring. Yeah, they didn't
Wow.
have what I usually use, and I
Yeah.
won't substitute.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but my biggest order was, I say the scariest was I got a huge order for cake cups to ship to Arizona,
Wow.
and I already told you like shipping is kind of scary for me, but it went really good. Not one jar broke.
Awesome.
And that just came from my trial and error, of shipping all the other stuff. But
Awesome.
yeah, and it went really good.
Right. So yeah, we didn't even get into that, like the
Yeah.
picking of the kind of jars, like how many different
Seriously.
types of jars did you go through? Like we just really talking about your finished product.
Yeah.
And we didn't even get into like when you how much minutia, like from the jars to the particular food coloring. I'm not even thinking about that. I'm just saying,
It
in
just
my
is
mind, she just
good.
went in the kitchen,
You're right. And
whipped it
she
up,
handled it.
Absolutely not.
and came
No,
up.
I
Yeah.
had to do a
Wow.
lot of testing, a lot of samples. Like my poor family in my house, like, I don't even let them have cake no more. When they get cake, they so mad. They be like, "Can we get a cake for our birthday?" And I'm like, "What do you want a cake for?" You see all this stuff. So they're just like, had to try a lot of product out for me because I needed to know if it was right. But yeah.
So what was your challenge with the Arizona delivery? What was it that like had you the most like nervous or stressed out?
That it actually was going to get there without anything breaking. The jars that I have now, I specifically wanted those jars because when I did my research, nobody was using those jars. Absolutely nobody. When I say I searched the internet high and low, I could not find anybody that was using it. So I said, well, this is the jar that I'm going to use. And then from there, I tested the product. I put it, I made my desserts. I tested it within all the elements in the hot weather. I tested it with freezing them because our jars can last up to 6 months when you freeze them. Yeah. So, we did our test. We took them out to see after those months, did it still taste good, whatever. And it did.
Wow.
So that was like, the experiences that I had to try because I don't want to just tell my customers something and then it's like, well, no, it didn't work for me.
Wow.
But, it's a lot that you have to be prepared for. And that's what I mean when I say if you're going to go into a business, know everything about that business. You have to know the ins and outs.
Yeah.
You can't look at somebody and say, oh, she got a cupcake shop. I could do that.
I could do, yeah.
Because it's not the same. The work that somebody else put in doesn't guarantee you success.
Right. It's that's cupcake, but that's not edible. That's not edible couture, but it is.
It's a cupcake. I mean, you did try. So, oh gosh, that's so good. Wow.
How often would you say you turn down? Well, what kind of business do you turn down? And how often you say you turn down business?
Well, I get a lot of requests for custom cakes. I turn that down all the time because I don't no longer do that. That's not where my passion is. It's time consuming for me. And I'm only one person. So, that would be overextending myself. It requires a lot of detail. So to everybody that keep emailing me, I don't do custom cakes anymore. I rarely turn down any business. Only time I would turn it down if it can't fit into my schedule. A lot of the truck events and stuff, I try to schedule it in advance, so my calendar is filled. So if it's just I don't have the time, then I just have to turn it down.
Right. So when it comes to those like those events and stuff like that, where you're gonna or if it's a pop up, is like how far in advance do you reach out, or is there an event that you're interested in and you reach out to them, or is it working both ways where somebody's reaching out to you saying, hey, would you be interested in?
Yeah. Well, last year, because it was my first year with the truck, I had to seek out a lot of places. And with that, you don't really know the ins and outs. You didn't know what to expect, and you overpaying to be at an event and things like that. Now I'm figuring it out.
Right.
Now that I'm a year in, I can sit back and say, no, I don't want to do that one.
Right.
Oh, you're charging too much, and I know you're charging too much. So,
what is the reaction when you actually say to somebody, you charging too much?
Some people will come back and say, okay, well, let's work this out or whatever. It depends on if they really want, you there. But some I'm just like, no. I mean, because it's a give and a take. If you want to have a successful event, then your vendors should have a successful event. And I don't want to come into your event $1,000 in the hole, and I still got my product and pay people and things like that. So no, I have to turn that down. I'd rather go park in my neighborhood and just, sell my product on my own rather than to overpay you, and a lot of them I feel are very greedy when they do that because they don't even promote you or they might have 5 cupcake places
Right.
with me.
Mm.
You know, not even being considerate that we all have to fight for
Right.
one customer.
Right.
You know, so it's about learning and just stepping back and know what you're getting yourself into, and just, you know, do your homework.
And then on the other end of it, you probably end up promoting their event, telling people you're going to be there, and you get your customers there, and then
Wow.
so you actually
Absolutely.
cross promoting
Wow.
their event, and they're not even considering that either, and they're gonna put you with like a couple other cupcake.
And little old me always feeling bad for everybody else, like, because my customers say, well, I only came here for you, and I'm like, don't do that.
Right.
Walk around, see
Right.
everybody. You
Yeah.
know, you never know what you're gonna find out here, so
That's
don't just
sweet of
come
you.
for me.
Yeah.
You know,
Nah,
so
you take them with you.
Yeah.
So that way, when somebody because you in demand, and you say, look, you know, my product speaks for itself. You know, definitely don't be afraid to be selfish in that matter.
Yeah, I'm kind of learning, but this year was different. Now I get more emails, people asking me to come.
Right.
Wow.
So yeah, last year doing all the work and getting out there, promoting myself. This year I'm getting the emails. Look, can you make this event? We want you here. So
Yeah.
that's a good feeling.
Mm.
You know?
It is. It says a lot about you when you do that. Like that's. It's like I want her here. I want her presence.
Right.
That it means like they get bigger, but you do too. You know what I mean? That's so.
But it starts with the product, though.
That's
you know what I
very
mean?
true,
Right.
and it speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Right.
If it's not good, you can
Nobody will want me.
you can put all kind of billboards up.
My truck will be as cute as it want to be, but it's
For
just gonna
real.
be cute because
Yeah.
they are not gonna want it. So
So, I did order some stuff from you. And do you want to even talk about the
Please do.
talk about what?
the cookie?
Oh yeah, we can talk about the cookie.
Okay, because so okay. Before we get to that, what items you have on the truck? What desserts?
Okay, our desserts consist of the number one thing that you see on the truck is our gourmet cake cups, and those cake cups are several different flavors. Our top selling is our banana pudding and our strawberry shortcake, but we also have triple chocolate. We have Reese peanut butter, pineapple coconut, red velvet Oreo, and then sometimes we do sweet potato. We have carrot cake and an almond joy. So those are our cake cups. The cupcakes vary weekly. Sometimes I just, throw in other flavors, but our standard flavors that will always be available on the truck are banana pudding, strawberry shortcake, our red velvet and red velvet Oreo, the Reese peanut butter and the triple chocolate. And those are like our top flavors that will always be available. We get it, I get a little crazy sometimes. I do things like our chicken and waffle is very popular.
I had it. That's real good.
Yeah.
I was with that one. It had the little thing with the.
For me, though.
It had the little.
The
What is that?
the
Yeah, the
shooter
shoot with the syrup in it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was like,
okay, I have to. All right.
what is this?
Yeah,
That-
we'll be
that's
bringing
next
that
on my
back
list.
soon.
With a piece of like a warm piece of chicken. Like she bring the warm piece of chicken on top of the
Y'all hear this?
with the syrup.
Do y'all hear this?
With the syrup.
With the syrup?
Yeah, you
His
squeeze the
eyes
syrup
are
on it.
gleaming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
have
telling
that
you, know-
salty and that sweet together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Yeah, those are, the cupcakes and the cake cups are, our top items. Then I do cheesecake on a stick. Those vary in different flavors. In the summertime, we do ice cream, and then we do Italian ice. I mean, so we try to do a little bit of everything up on there. And we got a few more things coming this year. I don't want to be stagnant and stay in, one place, but we're going to expand onto some new stuff within these next couple of weeks, and I think my customers will be happy about that.
Do you worry about like introducing too much, or you just like, let me put this out there and see how it goes? And
Listen, I'll say it like this. It's my truck. I'm going to try whatever I want.
Yes.
Either you going to like it or you don't. It's either going to be here for a minute or I'm gonna keep it.
Right.
I just want to see what my customers like, you know. If they, sometimes people throw a little idea at me and I'm saying, I'll try it. If it works, it works. If not, then we keep it moving. I just like to try stuff,
Right.
I like that. I like that.
Anything ever just didn't move at all, where you just like, I probably shouldn't have tried that?
I haven't really had anything yet that hasn't
That's
people
how you know it's
haven't
real.
tried. Like I did the cheesecake in a jar. A lot of people say they're not really big cheesecake people, but then you'll find I could go to a festival and that's all they buy.
Right.
So you just never know what's
Right.
gonna sell at what given time. So
Right.
it's nice to have a little variety for everyone. So, but yeah, we're expanding. I mean, I know I'm gonna need help soon. I do need help now.
I
So
know, that's right.
mean, that would allow me to, I have trust issues.
Right.
though,
I was gonna
you
say
know?
that's what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna ask you. Like because you want to do another truck, like you actually say, all right, take it and go,
Yeah.
and how that's gonna be big. Like to be able to trust that everything that because when you are preparing the stuff. So for instance, you got the chicken and waffle. You in there, you preparing it a certain way. How comfortable do you have to be that you're gonna send somebody else on a truck with your name on it, and that they gonna love that?
That's the part.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
gotta have that. And it's crazy because my husband, I mean, he's amazing with this whole business. Like I couldn't even manage to do it without him. But there's like things like when it comes to my cupcakes, we will always joke and say, if I ever went on cupcake wars or anything like that, I'm not taking you with me because like he just don't have that aspect of
Right.
it. But everything else he just makes it work.
Right.
So I'll send them out. Last year while I was still working, I would send them out on a truck, but I would already prepare the cupcakes to make it look the way it's supposed to. So it would be him and my son, and I would tell them,
You got one
you
job.
know, exactly. And my son, he
Legit.
was really good with it. He knew how I wanted to look, so he was pretty good with it.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel they will forget things,
Right.
and like I'm a perfectionist when it comes to stuff like that. So I want what I want, and I want it to look
Right.
Yeah.
how I set out. I even take pictures and everything. So it's hard.
You be like that. What's the guy name that
It's
be yelling out?
interviewing.
Not the guy that be yelling at everybody on TV.
Dave
Ramsey?
Yeah,
is it-
you do that?
No.
Oh.
Okay.
They probably say I do, but wait, I don't know. No, I'm not that bad, but
Yeah, he be going hard.
yeah,
He
a little over.
But
the
if you
top.
put a little girl in front of him,
Yeah,
a little
he's a softie.
7-year-old,
yeah,
it
brings it down.
night and day, like just who he is. Like you just fall in love with him. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
I just
Like,
had that thought when you said you're a perfectionist. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, because
Wow.
my customers gonna tell me.
mhm.
Right.
They're like, look, this is not
This ain't
how
it.
you should do it.
Wait
This
a
is
minute.
not, and what they tell me, they love that I'm there and I'm preparing it in front of them, and they feel special.
Yeah.
So I want them to have that same experience no matter who's there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that person has to be a very special person
Mm.
to
You
understand.
gotta interview.
Yeah.
You gotta interview who
Yeah.
who could fit the role, and
Right.
you'll know.
I'll know.
You'll know.
Mhm.
Trust
Like, wait
me,
a
I
minute.
will. Mm-hmm.
All right. So now we could talk about that cookie.
Mm-hmm.
Cookies that you bought.
Yeah.
We gonna be the first one to try them. So
Yes.
officially,
Yeah.
I know you tried them already, but I mean, before you even rolled it out, I appreciate you bringing that. So what's the new cookie?
Some new cookies. We have a chocolate chip cookie, and then we have a salted caramel, or sea salt salted caramel chocolate chip.
What went into that? Like going into cookies, like what was your thought process into?
I just like to have a little something for everybody. Just you want a little cookie one day, you want a cupcake,
Yeah.
Not saying every day there's going to be cookies available, but usually what I do is, like the other day I made blondies and I put it on, we have blondies today.
Okay.
You come and get it,
Right.
It's
Blondies
not going
are
to be,
cupcakes.
blondies are like brownies, but they're just a lighter, you know, it's a brown
Blondies.
butter
Okay.
blondie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
mean, it's just it might be here today. Tomorrow it's not.
Right.
You know, if you want it, come get it.
Right.
You know, so you never know what I'm gonna put on that truck.
Yeah.
Get
Well-
it while you can. Get it.
All right. I want to thank you for giving us this time.
Yes,
Again, like I
thank
said,
you.
you know, I know you're busy, and I know this is a day off,
Mm-hmm.
and for you to come through, it was a big. I
It
really
means a lot.
appreciate it.
No problem.
Really
appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me.
And
I
she
really
just got
enjoyed
this
myself.
glow, y'all. This
I
glow.
don't know what like a Last Dragon type.
No, it's just like a yes. I don't know what you're selling, but
Oh.
if it was straws, I feel like I'd say yes to you.
I guess it's because I'm happy with what I do.
Yeah, and you can
It
see
comes
it.
through.
It yes.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Mhm.
All right, so just put out your information. Where could we find you? Where could somebody listening? Your website, your email, and all that stuff.
Mhm. Well, it's Edible Couture.
Yep.
On Facebook, you can just search for Edible Couture. We have a friend page, and we also have our regular Edible Couture page. You can follow the Edible Couture page. Our website is ediblecouture.net. On Instagram, we're edible_couture. On Twitter, we're _edible couture. So you can find us on all of those. My
I
email
just follow.
is thehudson@ediblecouture.net.
All right.
Yes, y'all gotta get up there because she got all kind of stuff on her Facebook.
Yes, follow me. We have some
All
good
of
things
it.
coming for Mother's Day. Get a little treat for Mom.
Mm-mm.
Don't have her in there baking and cooking on
For
Mother's
real.
Mm.
Treat her.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.